want to go ahead and kick it off. Obviously, we're talking about the accountability chart today, and we'll do a quick introduction to Jim and myself to kind of kick things off. Here's our agenda. We'll talk about the accountability chart, some of what Jim mentioned, why it's so important and why you should really start going back to it. And then we'll jump into 90, do a quick overview within there. And then we'll talk about some of the future features that are going to be coming out. So things like multiple versions, a sandbox, archiving, admin seats, I know are a big one for a lot of people, and IDS. So that's the plan for the next hour, 90 minutes, however long IDS.
We haven't done it within an hour yet, Christine. So
we have not. We haven't. So, all right, first, hello, I'm Christine Watts, Head of Product and Client Success here at 90. So yeah, really just here to show you the software, what we have today, how to use it, and then where we're going in the future. And then we've also got Jim.
And Christine, you are our internal subject matter expert on field hockey, isn't that right?
I am, yes, self-proclaimed.
Okay. No one's challenged you for the position yet. And then for Haviland, I help with, I'm an EOS implementer, have been for a couple of years now, and I help with coach success here at 90, helping coaches figure out how to best utilize 90 and how the other way around, how 90 can do the best job it possibly can at supporting coaches.
Yeah, and we've also got Steven here from the marketing team. So he's going to be in that chat area. If you guys have a question that we can just answer right off the cuff, we'll go ahead and jump in. And then if anything, he's just going to be taking all of those questions and putting it into 90 so that we can IDS after the presentation.
All right. So yeah, the most important thing here, Christine, I think, is that the accountability chart is much more important than people think. I mean, we do the accountability chart right away during Focus Day. It's the first thing we do. And like any good coach, people aren't really ready to make big changes yet. So, we recognize that and we try to get people into it and try to start planting the seeds for the kind of structure we want to get to. But the reality is that the right structure is really going to support your ability to focus on what's urgent and important, right? And considering how structure impacts that is tremendously important, because what almost always happens during Focus Day is we basically leave the structure as is, and we're just learning to kind of like deal with it and look at it from an accountability chart perspective. And maybe we dig out a couple of right people, right seat issues. But if you never change it, you're probably not really thinking about it hard enough. And I'm going to try to give you some pointers on how to think about it. So one of the things that we always try to do here is plan for the future. And you'll see some of some of the things that Christine is going to talk about for our future developments that are so important for this, is being able to think about it. Okay, what if 6 to 12 months from now, what's our company going to look like then? Kind of like the same way we think about the 10-year target and the 3-year picture and the 1-year plan and your quarterly rocks as a kind of like that funnel of focus that we talk about within EOS. It really helps us understand what we need to get done right now. The accountability chart should be able to focus, give you the ability to think about, okay, a quarter from now, 2 quarters from now, looking at my 1-year plan, where do I sit in that? And what am I going to have to do to be able to support getting all those things done? And that people typically are pretty good at figuring out like, oh, that means I'm going to need 17 more crank turners between now and then. But reality is it also might mean a change of distribution of labor and focus and maybe a different structure. And the most important one is that when you get to those roles and responsibilities, they should relate to measurables and processes. We talk a lot at 90 about trying to get from expectations to agreements. And the very best way to do that is to make sure that everyone knows with their roles and responsibilities. I do a lot, Christine, with helping people roll out EOS to the rest of their organization. And I have them walk through and look at their accountability chart and say, hey, this is your seat on the accountability chart. Do you understand your roles and responsibilities? Do you know how you'd be successful at that? And quite often they don't. So it's one of those things when you look at your accountability chart, you want to raise those issues. If you've got something on the accountability chart and you don't know exactly what success looks like there, because you don't have any measurables attached to it and there's no process defined for it, that's an issue. You got to figure that out.
Yeah, I love that you brought up process too, because it's one of those that, I mean, I even forgot to put it on the bullet point list of things I would cover. I'm thinking measurables, you see it in the feedback area, but that process aspect is so important for that continued, getting back to the accountability chart and making sure everybody's on the same page.
That's it. And my vision, of course, for the accountability chart, I think we talked about this before, is that we'd be able to put a seat on the accountability chart, and by connecting it to measurables and connecting it to processes, we'd be able to discern how to turn that seat into a rec. Like, I know exactly who to go hire now. I know what their Colby should be. I know what they know. These are the things they should know about how to do. Because it all should relate, and we should be able to be really explicit about that when we talk about a position. So a couple of lessons from my recent experiences here. Always review your accountability chart before your quarterly. It's one of those things you should have everyone go back and look at. Hey, we're getting ready for the quarterly. We've cleaned up our short-term issues. Hopefully, we've figured out which of them belong in long-term list, which ones are gone, because it's the end of the quarter. But that in that time between your last level 10 and that quarterly, go back and look at the accountability chart. Make sure you really understand what's in there and look for things that might raise issues. Number one, is it still the right structure? And once I get here's the thing about the right structure. Whatever's most important this quarter should determine what your structure is. I mean, I coach all my clients into thinking about whatever they're really focusing on getting done this quarter and this year. You ask the question, should you raise the level of that accountability in the organization, right? Because if I bring it from down here to up here, I'm going to have more visibility to it. It's going to be able to be responsive, and I'm going to have that fluidness of solving problems that are maybe most important. So that's the way to think about right structure. Are things at the right level here, and are the right things reporting up to the right things? People get that one usually right, but is all the functions in my organization, are they at the right level so they get the right level of attention and focus? And you ask, are there any RPRS issues, right people, right seats? That one people are usually pretty good at, because when we go into clients, they always have a couple of people. It's like, I don't know if they really belong here. They're great in their seat, but they don't fit the mold, I love them, but they really aren't great at their job. And does everyone have time to do their job and do their job well? I should have the word well in there. And that's really the point here, because if they're not, then I got things I can go do, raise the issue. Maybe it's a delegate and elevate. There's a great set of resources on delegate and elevate out in the universe. So but ask your coach about it. If they haven't taught you delegate and elevate, holy mackerel, it is a powerful tool. I use it for people all the time, and it solves problems. So that's maybe how you solve that one. Or you figure out how to automate something. So just like with issues, we've only got a couple of solves out there. If you're do delegate and elevate, you either got to delegate that stuff that you don't like to do because you're never going to be good at it. You got to automate it. You got to find some other way of getting it done.
Nice. I love the idea of tying this back into your VTO and really looking at your 1 year and what's happening for the quarter, because it's really going to help you think about like resource allocation even. Because if there's issues with any of these, you're not going to get a rock done. So it's all related. That's it.
It's not going to get the right support. If there's a company rock and the person responsible for that is 2 levels down, you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. If you're in more than one seat, allocate your time and attention between those 2 seats and get agreement from the team as to that allocation. That's part of how we turn expectations into agreements. If we think that every seat here's a full-time job, and we got someone in more than one seat, holy mackerel, you got to figure out what that short-term solve looks like, and get everyone agreed that, hey, this is how we're going to get through it until we can get this seat solved. We're going to have 60-40, 20-80, 50-50. You got to decide on where the right focus is.
Yeah.
And elevate roles that carry the heaviest rocks, trying to be somewhat poetic in that, but the notion that the things that are most important, if you've got focus in the organization, make sure those roles are at the right level within the organization, because that's how you're going to get that stuff really accomplished. If once you've made this very smart decision to focus on something for your organization, this is what's going to, our success relies on these things happening, then you got to do everything you possibly can to make that stuff happen, including occasionally elevating roles.
Great. Well, now we'll jump into 90 a bit. So like I said, we'll go through like some of the basics like adding, editing, adjusting seats, show you a little bit about if you wanted to combine a visionary integrator seat into having just one central at the top, and then get into a little bit of the departmental views, how connecting measurables looks, how connecting feedback looks. And then like Jim mentioned, process. Let's go take a look at process and see how the seats relate to those individual steps as well. So start off, we'll just take a look at the accountability chart. Hopefully you guys know where it is, just over here on the left-hand side. And this is the very basic layout. So if you already have an ID account, you've probably already deviated from this structure a bit, just in terms of editing the roles and responsibilities and adding additional seats on here. So just to cover a couple of the very basic entries, if you do want to start going in and editing either the seat title or the roles, use the edit button here and you get a little pop-up. This is going to allow you to adjust things. And so a really good idea is actually organizing your roles and responsibilities based on priority or time spent, whatever you guys decide internally. But these are all adjustable for that very reason. And if you wanted to come in here and put any sort of time allocation, that's something that I did for a while because I am in 2 seats and I wanted to be really clear about percentage of time and where I was spending it. So I would just come in here and literally write it down, and maybe once a quarter or every couple days, like use a time tracking software to see if I was on track with that. So it's a great way to just have some visibility around it and have that open communication with the team.
Yeah, we've got a at Impact Architects, we've got a worksheet we actually give to people as part of this, because we wanted them to start getting, tracking how much time they're spending, even in these roles and responsibilities. And so people have visibility on that. And it's a great way to start to really understand your time. It's the most precious resource to manage. It's why the whole conversation about, Stephen Covey's rocks conversation about you got to put the rocks in first, because there's no more extra time you can go get. You're going to run out of time. So the more you can bake into here to make it clear to everybody what this looks like, because then it rolls with that responsibility as well. So you could, say, okay, these are all the things that are part of that responsibility. If I want to transfer that to somebody else, all the information's there. So this is it's actually, Chris and I love to use this with our clients as a tool for planning, for managing all of that. So they can go back and look at it and go, okay, now we need to go put more stuff in there, just like we do with rocks.
And if there are any sort of external resources that you're using, like Jim just mentioned, maybe your implementer has something specific, maybe you want to attach Colby results, whatever it is, we put this attachments option on here for those specific resources. So obviously within each of these, you can describe what the specific roles are, but if there's any external things, job descriptions for a position you're hiring, whatever it is, feel free to throw these on here so that it's all in one central place.
Yeah, I mean, and it's particularly if this is a position you hire often, which is, so put all of the resources in here so they're all easily findable. They're organized exactly where you expect to find them, and everyone in the organization can go there and go, oh, I think I know someone for that role. What's the job description look like? Where it is, and you can share it with your friends and hire them and make good things happen.
Once you start building out the seats, so using that edit button, your other option is to add people to those seats. So they'll all start off blank like this, where you can click and then choose from this list of people. This is pulling directly from your directory page. So they don't have to be a paid user to go on the accountability chart. And what that means is add everybody in your company to the directory by just clicking the add person button. And then you can make sure to build out your entire chart. You don't have to pay for everybody, but you at least have the visibility there so you can see where people belong. So click, assign, and then any seats that are below the visionary and the integrator have the opportunity to assign more than one person there. It usually wouldn't happen at the leadership team level, because a better example is you've got a sales position and there's 5 salespeople all just covering different regions or whatever it is. If they have the same roles and responsibilities, you can put them in the same seat, and that way you can really consolidate it down and not make your chart so messy with the same seat over and over again. And then within here, go ahead.
I want to point out that the right click little thing at the top there for making an issue of that stuff, the more actions, that's really,
yes.
Don't tell me it's hard to make an issue. You can always make an issue. It's super easy, always in 90 to make an issue, make more issues.
issues, to-dos, whatever you want to do in there. And it pulls in all the details. So if you've got roles and responsibilities in there, it'll throw it in the description area so you can, you know, highlight a specific one of whatever you wanted to talk about. So yeah, you've got all of that within here. Really quick and easy.
Does it bring the attachments in too, Christine?
You know, that's a good question. I have to test that out. I want to say yes.
Okay.
Let's do a live. I don't know. Copy existing attachments.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I thought it would, but I didn't want to make a promise I couldn't keep. So
I know it's still good because right there, I mean, like, hey, we need to, you know, as you're looking at the accountability chart and you say, hey, in the next six to 9 months, I need 3 more people in this role. That becomes a to-do or a rock for someone to go do those hires, man. You want all that stuff right there. They don't need to go looking for it.
Yeah, exactly right. And the other couple items in this are going to be cloning the seat. So if you want to replicate all the roles and information within here and just clone it so that you can have a copy that you can go ahead and edit, that's what this would do. And set as top seat is a great option for viewing a department. So let's say we've got the sales and marketing team, and I don't care about looking at the rest of the chart over here. I just want to look at this individual breakdown. I can say set as the top seat, and it's going to put the sales and marketing seat here, and then I can see a breakdown of each of these individual areas. So this is the only portion of the chart that we're focused on. And I've got complete edit function within here, so I can still move things around and change the seats, but it just gives me this specific view. Another place you'll see that same wording is up here at the top. So if you wanted to re-choose integrator or anything like that, you can just go ahead and select from that list as well. And then this resets it to the visionary look again.
Great stuff.
Last thing I'll point out organization-wise of the chart is going to be moving seats. So here's a great example. If we've got sales managers, and really they should be under the B2B sales division, instead of moving things left and right, which are these two icons here, the one in the center, which is that crosshairs, is move to. So I can select B2B sales division. I can say it's Michelle. So I can choose between those two seats based on who the owner is and then save it. And now the seat moves down below there. So it's a really easy way to reorganize things, move people to a new department without having to delete and recreate something from scratch. All right. Other than that, on the accountability chart, I think the other organizational thing I wanted to show you was just the visionary integrator look here. So if you're in a position where you don't have two seats like this at the top, and maybe you have a combined visionary integrator, you can delete this seat. So up here at the very top, go ahead and press delete. You can get it back. So now we've got just the integrator up here. Maybe we call that president or visionary / integrator, however you guys are set up. And if you ever wanted to re-add that visionary seat, all you do is click the plus sign and you've got it back there. So that's an easy way to kind of consolidate things down and have a single seat at the top and then build out from there.
Especially now, building out versions, right, Christine?
Building out versions, yeah, that's next. So let's go take a look at measurables. So up here at the data page, we can see how the accountability chart pulls into your measurables. And the way it does that is through the owner. So each one of your measurables has an owner, and what you can do is click on it and you can choose the seat that it's related to as well. So if Mike's in 2 seats, it gives me the option to choose between the 2 seats that I'd like to select. Right now, this is just like a tag. It's just tracking it. It's not doing anything specific. Where we're looking to go with this is actually being able to see which accountability chart seats are performing, like being able to really see like the red, yellow, green on the accountability chart based on the measurables that you have attached to those seats. So giving you a really nice view so you can see if there's specific issues in departments or with people at a larger scale. So that is available when you click on the measurable, or when you're creating a new one, you should have that option there as well. Now, if we go down to feedback, feedback is where you have quarterly conversations and annual reviews. We did a deep dive on this in January, so you can definitely send out that recording if you'd like to go back and see a little bit more about that. But I did want to call out that a part of all of these quarterly conversations is that GWC aspect. So when I click prepare form, this is a form that me and Michelle both fill out separately. pulls in the VTO core values. And then right below that, you've got GWC, and I can see the accountability chart seat that I'm in, the roles and responsibilities, and go ahead and fill that out. So that's how you're going to pull in the accountability chart seat into those quarterly or annual conversations. Go back. And then the final one, process, what I forgot to write down, is a lot like the measurables. So within each of these, if I expand down into the HR process, you have these different steps. So you can kind of have 3 layers in the process area, just to give you guys a quick overview. This is my core process. Here's the steps within that core process. And then I can go down and actually have sub-steps within here as well. And you'll notice that our part of each of these tiles, I've got the title, I've got like the really description area. I can create like a bullet pointed checklist if I want to. And then here's the owner. And it's not the person that's doing the process, it's the person that owns it. So if I have a question the first time I'm going through and interviewing people for a specific role, I know Spencer's the one I'm going to call if I've got questions about this specific process step. And so the way that you actually assign these is it pulls up a list of the accountability chart seats first. So that just popped up as soon as I clicked on that icon to change the owner. So it's a really easy way, so you can say, hey, we're in the HR core process, this specific step. So I'm going to go to head of HR, and I'm going to pick the specific person within there that we want to own it. So it's an easy way to kind of start narrowing down who should own the process, because it actually shows you those accountability chart seats first. And then these, same concept as the measurable connection earlier, we are looking to attach measurables to processes as well. So you kind of will have that, not quite yet, but where we're looking to go, whole, connected aspect where you can actually see what processes are performing. Obviously, those processes are related to people, accountability chart seats, so we'll incorporate that as well, but all based on the measurables that you're tracking. So you can really get some nice insight into how certain things are performing.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I mean, I think it's the interconnectivity of all of this that really, when it really works, and the software is going to help with that. But it's, just going into it and understanding that the accountability chart should represent connections to all these other things, because this is the steady state of the business. This is like getting the stuff done every day. This is 80% of your time, and 20% goes to rocks or working on other things. And that 80% of your time, defined by these roles and responsibilities, should be throwing off some measurables, should involve some processes you've defined. And that's when it's all working together. You just know the right best things happening every day.
Yeah. So I don't think I have anything else to show on here. Let me jump back. I think I covered all of these. So let's dive into a little bit about what is going to be coming. I didn't put next, so usually I kind of show like what the coming soon features are and give you a little bit of an idea. This is really just future plans. So we really want to get them done by the end of the year as a goal, but we do quarter to quarter planning on the product side. So I can't guarantee that these things will be done because they haven't been started yet, but we do have the plans and are working on the initial aspects of all of them. So yeah, did a little disclaimer here.
Just appreciate you not wanting to overpromise, Christine.
Yes, don't want to overpromise, but they're the type of items that a lot of people ask about, and internally there's a lot of energy around getting them done. So I feel pretty confident with like an end of year type of release, but we'll see, obviously. Multiple versions. So like Jim said, 6 months out, 12 months out, building one for your 3-year. It even came up, when everything with COVID happened last spring, people are like, what's my contingency plan? Being able to have those separate versions of like the situations that you're planning for is going to be huge. So that'll just be the ability to have those separate versions that anybody could go in and view.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this because there's 2 places. One, the reverse accountability chart. That's the concept of pulling back people who's going to take on these roles if we get to 25% of our revenue, if we only get to 50% of our revenue. And so having plans for each around those, but also around that 3-year picture. It's so hard for people to kind of start to really figure out what the company needs to look like in 3 years and really make it solid. But the extent they're like, okay, let's go to that 3-year place and let's build out that accountability chart. holy mackerel, how important is that going to be? Because now we can talk about, well, there's a bunch of people in this department. Is that too many reporting up to one person? Do we have one other tier in there? Do we break it apart into different focuses? I mean, those are great conversations to start to really be clear about what 3 years look like. So you can, I mean, 3 short years, man, it's not that far out, but it's hard to get your arms wrapped around it without some visualization.
Yeah. Next one is a sandbox area. So being able to go in and make those decisions, whether it's as a visionary integrator pair, as a leadership team, things that you don't want to quite share with everybody quite yet, having that sandbox area so you can start it, invite whatever specific people or teams that you want to, and allow yourselves to collaborate before you really share and distribute to the group as a whole. It's going to be huge. I mean, especially when you're talking about things like the reverse accountability chart, where people's seats are going to move, or they're not going to be on there, whatever the situation is, that sort of privacy will be really important.
Well, and maybe capture this, Stephen, is let's make sure we go back and look at how we maintain privacy in our PRS issues that are raised from the accountability chart. Because we'll talk about the pure way of doing it, but how 90 supports that, I think, is important.
Yeah, it's a great call out on this area. Next one's archiving. So being able to go back and view past versions of your VTO, just like how we have of your accountability chart. We have the VTO set up the same way, where it's actually every time you run a quarterly or an annual within the 90 system, it automatically saves a version, but you can also go in and just save those anytime. So I'm thinking we'll have those same sort of mechanisms as far as auto saving the accountability chart and then being able to go back and view past versions too.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. And then unique seats. So I know some people are interested in having like their owner's box up there, but don't necessarily want them on the chart. Being able to have horizontal admin seats, I know is a big thing for a lot of people instead of just putting them in the normal team layout. So all of those kind of unique areas we'll definitely be looking to add into the system as well. And these are really the big items. There's other things we want to do, rich text editor on the accountability chart seats, being able to tag or color code certain seats based on location or whatever you want to throw in there, being able to move roles to other seats. So there's a lot of other little things in here, but I felt like these were the big heavy hitter items of things that I feel like we're getting a lot of requests about.
I'm gonna have a list of things around the printouts to share with you, Christine, from clients as well.
All right. Yeah, I can't wait. I didn't showcase that one, but we can definitely dive into that.
It's a hard one because it's, everyone gets very specific about what they want, but they want like a mini view.
Oh, okay.
Without all the roles, responsibilities, just to see the structure. And so on and so forth. So
yeah, we'll definitely have to dive into that. I'm sure there'll be some IDS items. And this is a little bonus slide. I forgot I added in there. I didn't put it in the agenda, but I just wanted to give a quick update on a couple past office hour sessions. So I know we talked about the scorecard, trailing 4 and 13 weeks, goal forecasting, notes on scores. All of that is into beta testing. If there's a lot of excitement around that on this call and people want to see it, I can definitely jump in and show you guys how it all looks in there. And if you chat with our client success team, they'll add you to the beta program right away if you want to test it out.
Yeah, we can get a couple IDS questions about scorecards, so I'm sure we'll dive back in there.
Nice, perfect. So yeah, we can definitely highlight some of those, but I just wanted to call it out since we have brought it up in the past. Everything that we talked about is ready, so very excited about that. And then meetings, we did this one, we did quarterlies last month and then level 10s the month before that. And so what we teased is the multiple people joining the meeting, and that's ready for beta testing. So it'll probably go out next week to our beta users. We've been hitting them with a lot of new stuff lately. So we're having them test out the scorecard, obviously, having them test out a new single sign-on system. So giving them a little bit of a breather before we give them meetings, but that should be going out next week.
Christine, if I wanted to be part of the beta program, how would I do that?
So head to the website and just chat with our team. So if you come within here, bottom right, if you just let them know, hey, I want to be in the beta program right here, they know exactly how to add you and can do that right away. And just so you guys know, the beta program is for your company as a whole. So when we release a new feature into beta, We email everybody in your company explaining what it is, sending them a video about how to use it, asking for some feedback. So it's not just for you individually, it's for your entire account.
Yeah, and Christine, you do a great job with it. It's never shocking for people that are part of the program. They do get plenty of support on it. But just if you're not into, new stuff, you might not enjoy it.
Yeah, you might not enjoy it because we're really looking for feedback on it. When we release something like that, we really do want to hear how it goes, what you're experiencing. We're not releasing things with, a ton of bugs or anything that's going to mess up your account. It's fully vetted before it gets to that point. And we've used it internally for multiple weeks before that. But it is a way to just get, a couple hundred company eyes on it before it goes out to everybody.
Right.
And then finally into IDS. So just another call out. I know you guys have been posting questions in the chat. If you've got anything, we're going to keep monitoring in there so we can add new ones as we continue to IDS and you guys are reminded of new questions, but feel free to post those. And after the webinar, we'll include an email with whatever we end up talking about. So any resources you guys need, we'll make sure to tag those and include those in the follow-up email along with the recording of this too.
Excellent.
All right. So I think I'm heading over here. Great. So let's see.
I
was going to see if we had any accountability chart specific ones, but since we don't, I feel like let's just run down the list, right?
Yeah. Well, mine's specific, but we don't necessarily have to. Let's take it in order. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So visibility of other users to-dos. I'd like to see open to-dos in 90 based on individual users. That's a great point. So right now, when you want to look at other people's rocks, to-dos, whatever's on their plate, measurables, you have to go to the individual team and find the user there and see what's on their plate, as opposed to a My 90 version where, hey, I can see everything that I have, my to-dos, my rocks, my scorecard items across all of my teams. I know what a lot of people are looking for is the ability to see this for their direct reports. So I could go in and pull up Steven and see all the to-dos and rocks and all the things he's working on. So we're not there quite yet, but that's definitely something I do want to add to this My 90 page. So you could have a little drop down here and be able to see those people that you have reporting to you so that you can go in and view their workload.
So on my team section to the My 90 page.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
I gotta say this is one thing. The My 90 page isn't necessarily, not everyone knows about it if they don't spend much time in EOS in Inside 90. They sometimes miss it, but this is a great resource right there at the top, that kind of bullseye at the top to give you great focus, and it's got all these great resources, places to land, and you scroll all the way down there, Christine. It even gives you cool visualizations of how you're doing on your rocks and your to-dos, all that kind of stuff. So that, I imagine that's part of what we'll be delivering in the My Team section of My 90.
Exactly, yeah. So right now, if you really want that view of, hey, what are all this person's rocks, to-dos, measurables, we do have that incorporated into the feedback area. When you are running that quarterly conversation, it will pull in all that person's performance metrics across any teams they're on while you're doing that review. But that's really the only place we have it visible right now. But definitely want to bring that to the forefront here as well.
But you can also see it by going and looking at the team itself. So it isn't like you can't find it. It just isn't in that really fancy schmancy, lots of graphs thing that you've got. Your own
stuff. Exactly right. So you can still go in, access it on the individual pages, just don't have that one nice overall view quite yet.
All right, we'll call that solved. If you got some follow-up questions, don't be afraid to put them back in the chat.
Yep. Great. All right, average on scorecard. How do I get the average in your data/measurables? So
great question.
Yes, let me go to my leadership team where I've got some data. So here you can see I have turned on 3 things. I've got this color coding on the left, which is actually telling me red, yellow, green if I've hit all 3 weeks in a row, missed 1 or 2, I've been off track for all 3. I've got an average column and a total column before I get to my current week. And so the way that you control all of those things is through the data settings. So up here in the top right, go ahead and click on that. If you're not a manager role or above, you won't see that button. So just be aware, if you don't see it, then you just need to request a higher permission from somebody in your directory. But once you open that up, you have these toggles. So you can turn on or off those individual sections. You can decide if you want to hide the current week from your current scorecard view. So we hide our current week because we run our meetings on Mondays, so we don't want to see like a blank week there. So it's an easy way to kind of consolidate things down. And if you are showing these two columns, you'll notice I have certain ones turned off. So a total of a percentage, I don't need that. That makes no sense. So if you want to turn off any of those specific ones that you don't need to see an average or total for, when you click on the measurable, you do have the option to show hide those specifically.
And those sliders only come up if you've turned on those columns.
Exactly. Yeah. So go ahead and turn it on, and then you can go through and decide which measurables you want to see for those.
Yeah, and it's a great feature. Someone actually told me last week, Christine, that having like a more solid bar after total before the weekly stuff comes up would be a benefit, make it easier to see what's going on.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Or even like, I know when we're going through the list, highlighting the row is great, but even highlighting the column would be really nice, so you can like see the date a lot easier too. So I feel like there's a couple little UI UX things that would be really nice to add in here, but I like that idea.
Good question.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so let's be clear. I mean, so we don't turn those. There's a whole bunch of features we don't turn on as a default because they're not EOS pure. That's not an EOS pure function. If you're really dedicated to purity, you don't turn that one on. But it's really cool, and all my clients use it. I help them all get going with it because it does tend to give you a better sense of what's going on. And the averages and sums are based on the number of weeks you're showing. That's I think it's part of the coolness of this. So right. If you're looking at 4 weeks or 90 weeks, it'll change that, so you get a better sense of the trending, and so actually start to really do some analytics right here on the page.
Yeah, you can adjust that to make sure you're looking at what you want. And that's one thing that we do before our quarterlies. We've got NPS score here, and so we'll adjust the number of weeks. It's usually 13, maybe we need to move it to 15. And that way we can see an average for the quarter and report that back during the quarterly meeting. So it's a nice way to kind of get that quick information too before those meetings.
Cool.
All right.
Great. Once again, if you have any trouble finding that, the chat box in the bottom right-hand corner, they can help you get that turned on.
Yeah. And 3 levels of process. So let's go back to process. I know I kind of breezed through this.
Process section gets so little attention, Christine.
It does. I know. Maybe we should do a session on this one because I feel like it's one of the last used features, and probably because it's one of the last used things when you're implementing EOS too.
Correct. There's no specific time you start doing it. There's no time when you're done with it. But holy smokes, it's a great way to gather all kinds of information. I've seen so many interesting things happen within the process section where people have created processes and sub processes and connected things, and just like, it's a great way to document what goes on inside the business.
Yeah. And so right when you click on the page, you'll actually have some default ones already here. So you have these 6 core processes, I think is what we give you by default, all of these. And then it's up to you to go in and start customizing it. So the first thing you'll do is probably decide what are the other core processes in your business. And there is a whole process for this. Yeah. I'll maybe let Jim jump into it in a second.
Yeah, your coach will help you figure out what your core 5 to 15 processes are. And that's where you want to start. One of the most important things that have to get done the right best way every time, and make sure they're followed by all. So that's what we teach. And it's one of the 6 key components is process. This is the tool for that. But not every company is going to have the same core processes. You're probably going to have something in all of these areas, but you're going to have some other ones as well. And the key here is to make it into a short checklist style set of steps, to 20-80 rule, 20% of the content to get to 80% of the outcomes. What this is built to do very, very well. There's plenty of process tools out there that go into nitty gritty craziness, right, Christine? And
Right.
I'm not going to tell you that's not a good idea, but the EOS Pure version, this is a great tool for capturing it in a very simple way. So let's go look at HR process.
Yes. So each of these tiles you can open up into the detail view. So that way, maybe you want to put what your goals are for getting this accomplished, team members involved, just high level define what the HR core process is. And then to get into the steps, you use the expand button here. So kind of like the accountability chart button. And this gives you the steps of that core process. You can zoom out or zoom in up here at the top right, like I'm doing. And then essentially you're building out this sort of workflow. So I've got a plus sign down here. So if I wanted to add a new step to the end, I can add the step. And then just like the accountability chart, I can rearrange these around as I need to. But we're saying, hey, within the HR core process, we have a way that we hire, a way that we onboard, a way that we update the accountability chart, a way that we train. So you're defining all of the ways that your company does something. And again, open up the details. And then within each of these tiles, you can, maybe you need a link to another system. Everything's not going to be within 90. You've got CRM platforms, you've got maybe HR platforms. So you can link out to where the work is specifically being done. And I know for me, like I've put videos in here so I can say, hey, here's what you need to go do. Here's the forms you need to fill out. So it's just an easy way to keep everything in one centralized place. So when we're going to hire somebody, here's what we look through. And if we're looking to hire somebody, we also have some sub steps built out. So, hey, here's how we search and how we screen and how we interview. So that's the 3 layers that we have within here: the HR core process, the hiring step, and then all the sub steps within hiring that somebody would go through. So
Great.
Hopefully that's a very quick overview and the process of building this out.
We got a thumbs up on that one. Good job.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's very, like the accountability chart. You're always going to be going back to it, refining it, working on it. So we should definitely do an office hour session about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. It's a rich place for people to work on the mastery of their business by getting better at recording and making sure the best things happen. So.
All right, AC update frequency. How often do you recommend updating the work chart? I realize we should update it and review it with our new hire when they start. What else would trigger it?
Yeah, so like I said, I instruct all of my clients to review the accountability chart in preparation for the quarterly. So if you've rolled out quarterlies to all the departments, that is a guaranteed place. They should go through it. And when I coach through those sessions, I say, do we look at the accountability chart? Let's pick it up really quick. And I ask the 3 questions again. Is this the right structure? Any RPRS issues? Just trying to tease out all those issues. And then does everyone have enough time to do their job well? So it probably doesn't have to be reconsidered any more often than quarterly. And certainly as you go and set and reset your 1-year goals, you should think about, once your 1-year goals are set, how does that impact the accountability chart? Who should be on the leadership team if these are our 1-year goals? Hey, we want to become a best place to work team this next year. That's one of our 1-year goals. Is HR on the accountability on the leadership team? If maybe they need to be, because that's how we're going to solve that problem. So certainly once a year, you should give it a full going over, but teasing out issues every quarter, think about it.
Yeah. So before that quarterly, you're probably creating a to-do for everybody to go look at the long-term issues, add things that they're thinking about, and just include on that list, like go look at the accountability charts, and you'll start flushing out issues and encouraging your team to like circle back.
And it takes, is this still the right structure? Is the hardest one for people to get good at, is asking the right questions so they understand their structure and how it impacts their ability to accomplish things. So it's a tough one, but certainly digging out those RPRS issues is an important part of it. Maybe that's a good tee off for us to go look at how do we create the private RPRS issues.
It's a great segue. So when you are looking at the issues, you've got this whole long-term list within your company. I'll go to my leadership team view here. So we've got some dummy stuff built out. but essentially a part of each of these long-term issues is a public toggle. So by default, when you go in and create a long-term issue, it's not going to be visible to everybody. And what I mean is sometimes your company is sharing the VTO, so people can go to the VTO page and see the leadership team VTO. It will exclude any issues that don't have this turned on. So by default, you're getting a lot of privacy there. So just like the other teams can't see your short-term issues, they can't see your long-term issues either unless you specifically give them access and say, hey, I am okay with this being public and visible on the VTO so that the team knows that we're working on it.
That said, it's a good thing to go through as you're going through your long-term issues at the quarterly to figure out which ones do belong there, because part of how you communicate the long-term thoughts of the organization on the VTO. So before your state of the company meeting, you make sure you've got some things on there so they know you've got some issues that you want people to know about.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we're working on thinking about translating 90. Let's make that a public issue because that affects client success and development and product and all of these other groups where they can know at the leadership level, we're thinking about implementing this, and there's like a little bit more company awareness.
Yeah.
All right.
Stephen wants us to translate it into Klingon. I don't know if you knew that, Christine.
All right, office hours. So update frequency.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say about this is maybe don't even wait until the new hire starts. I know I'm hiring a UI UX person right now, and I've shown everybody the accountability chart sheet during that interview process, showed them the team that they're going to belong on, and especially when you're looking to sell somebody on joining the company, it lets them know you've got your stuff together. I mean, team they might want to be on.
Expectation into agreements, like you really let them know exactly how things are going to be like. Hey, here's what your seat looks like. Here's the roles and responsibilities, and here's how we're going to measure success in those roles and responsibilities. And here's the processes you're going to be part of. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge way of making sure everyone's super clear coming in. So
yeah, I always share those and the core values. So pull up 90 and show them right away.
And that way, by the way, it also makes sure you've thought through it as you're going through the hire process, right? So it's like, okay, I hadn't thought about that. Let's make sure we got that clear and we're all on the same page.
Exactly. All right, so let's do upper and lower limit for measurables. Any discussion about adding the ability to set upper and lower limits? Let's see. So I might need you to explain what you mean by a limit. On a measurable right now, we do have the ability to have a varying goal. So if you wanted to say outside or inside a min or max, like we could have this goal is anywhere from 2 to 200 will show up as green. So we know anything below that number or above that number is an issue. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably what they mean, but certainly type in if that's not what you meant. Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, I always I'm on the soapbox on this one. Don't treat your goal like it's your stretch goal, like you're talking about a sales stretch goal. Your goal is where should this set of numbers be to let everyone know things are going well, because that's what the green, red, yellow is all about, is making it very easy to visualize where the problems are in the business so I can tease out those issues and solve them. So it shouldn't go red just because you're a little bit short of your goal this quarter. No, it's got to be, if it's between these two things, it's on track, meaning the business is running okay. And if I want more to happen, maybe create a different measurable for that, because that's a different category of stuff. Stretch goals would be a section, right? Like, right. Hey, are we crushing our stretch goals yet? But don't necessarily raise alerts in the business if you don't need to.
Yeah, really, you're trying to define your goals based on when is it an issue. That's really what you want to know. If it's not an issue, if we're not hitting X number, then maybe think about adjusting your goal to take that into consideration.
Wouldn't it be nice if every time a number went red, it's something to talk about, as opposed to, I got to think through it every one of these times? And that's really the point. Let's not waste time looking at things we don't need to look at. That's the whole structure of the L10 is about helping you focus on what's urgent and important.
Definitely. All right.
Well, that's a private, that's my own personal vendetta against.
All right. But Jeff, let us know if I did not understand. Let's see. Cascading messages. I know it doesn't fit here. Struggling with cascading messages. Are there tutorials you can share with us today? I do have like headlines and cascading messages video. Just so you guys know, it is something that comes up just specifically during the meeting function. So when you go in and start a meeting, on your headlines page, if any of your teams sent a cascading message to you, you would see a unique section here called cascading messages. And it's something that you can create during the meeting as well. So when you use that create button, you have that extra cascading message option. And so we can say, all right, we're doing a core value shout out for Stephen. And then we can say, hey, we want to cascade it to all the teams. Maybe we want to just pick a specific one here. So it lets you share a message with everybody, and it's going to show up in those specific teams level 10s that you end up choosing. So
good job, Stephen.
Yes. So that's,
and you don't have to actually be in a meeting, I think, to create a cascading message. If you're in the meeting section, you can create a cascading message and determine where any of the teams and deliver to any of the teams, right, Christine? I mean, it doesn't have to be just teams you're on.
Yeah, so the cascading message is really specific in the meeting because your team decides, hey, we want to let everybody else know about that. Right. But yeah, you can create headlines anytime. So when you just go to the, any page, you can go to headlines and then same kind of concept, put it in here. And then when you go to the teams drop down, you've got the same option where if this is something that you want to have a headline for every single team, go ahead and set that up too.
There you go. Cool.
So we just use that cascading message language while we're in the meeting, since that really means, hey, our team was together, we decided this, we want to let everybody know.
Let everybody know.
Mm-hmm.
So even I misspoke on it, so it's I'll say that's because it's easy to do, not because I'm a knucklehead.
All right. Follow through with issues. We tend to get stuck on issues that we can't resolve in the meeting, but need a plan.
Yeah. I think this is a great one. And so I teach my clients, I know we do this at 90 as well, that we'll mark an issue as work in progress. If you get to I've identified the issue and now we're discussing, if in the discussion section you realize you don't have enough information, insight, or knowledge to get to a solve, it's a great time to say, okay, work in progress, we're coming back to it, and create some to-dos for people to come back and figure out what has to happen to get to the solve, right? So, I mean, if you don't want, what you don't want to do is like, oh, let's make sure they did their to-do and then ask again whether they solved it or not. Like, try not to get into the point where you don't knock off any of your issues. If you have a to-do on something, like, hey, go do this. If it doesn't get done, it's going to come back and be an issue again. That is the intended workflow. Is that, hey, I brought up an issue. Oh, that issue sounds like someone needs to go do this thing about that. And if they go do that thing and it just still doesn't get solved, it should come back on the issues list. But it should come off and then come back on. That's the intended pure workflow. But that said, it happens a lot, right, Christine, where we just don't know enough. We're waiting on some other outside information. We can't get to a solve on this, but we want to make sure we ask the question every week, are we ready to decide on this yet?
Yeah.
And if just the answer is no, you keep going, move on to other things. Whatever's urgent and important.
Yeah. So, if you had to give percentages to it, 90+% of the time, you're doing what I just did. You're creating the to-do and then it's off the list because the to-do is there. It'll become an issue again if it doesn't get done or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. If there's that, 10% less situation where you really do have to continue work through it every single week and you need to create it to do multiple times. A lot of times what we do is just mark it as a WIP, so work in progress. So just give it a little title and just keep it on your issues list. So
yeah, if it's going to take a couple of weeks to go get done, turn it into a rock. I mean, you can add a rock mid-quarter. We call them mini rocks quite often. Michelle takes a lot of mini rocks. So do you, Christine. I try to avoid them. But add that mini rock and just acknowledge it's going to take a couple of weeks to get done. Anything more longer than to do, which is 7 to 14 days, make it a mini rock, and that way you're tracking it that way. You're not just tracking to-dos. You can also make it a rock. A couple of weeks, get to the end of the quarter. Are we getting that thing done or not? But it's not hanging out in your issues list. You don't have to look at it again until it's time.
Definitely. All right. I would like to see my to-do score based on what my to-do is due or late without indicating not done to-dos yet. So a couple different places to go look at this kind of specific information. One is on our to-dos page. I'll go to a section that has a bit more here. All of your to-do percentages, when I hover over this item, are going to be based on what is already either checked off. So if we've got 2 checked off, we've got 100% completion rate, or if something's past due. So if these 2 were due yesterday, now it's going to be 50% because I've got 4 to-dos, 2 of them are done and 2 of them are not done. We're not counting the ones that aren't due yet. So let's update. 50%. There we go. So you can see underneath there it says due by today or completed early. So it's counting those. And then your total number of to-dos is 2 out of 7 done. So you're still getting the total, but your completion rate is based on what's due today or completed early. And then the other place that you're going to be able to see a little bit of a view of that, 1, in the feedback area, it gives you the chart. And then 2, just right here on the My 90 page, I can go in, and this is obviously looking at a team view, but I can also pull up my to-dos. And then I'm getting the same view. Hey, what's completed on time, completed late, and incomplete over the last 90 days. So you've got that same sort of, total calculation and percentage there.
Yeah, you can get really geek out on all the options there. But so make sure you know what you're going to want to go after. But you've got a lot of opportunities there to look at what you want to look at. And 90% is the number we're looking at. What we want to see week over week. And part of that, by the way, the coaching angle on it is get better at not taking on to-dos you can't do this week, or make sure you're explicit about when they can be done when you take them, because we don't, because we give you the option, but completed, we do track completed on time, whether it was completed on the date that was originally assigned. So that's the moment of truth when you say, hey, I'm going to give you to-do. Before it gets created, say, yeah, but I can't get it done this week. It's going to be done in 2 weeks. And just the more you're good at that, it's really about training you to be really good about planning your time and predicting what you can get done. And so that's what that number really means. It isn't like what, it isn't necessarily meant, hey, are you great at your job? It's more about, are we getting better at the mastery of time management?
Right. Yep. So go ahead and change that due date when you're creating it. Helps with expectations for the week too.
Yes, exactly.
All right, back to the office hours team. All right, definitely shout out for the full session on process.
Okay.
Great.
Perfect.
So any suggestions for like good best practices on ways or where to start? I've really just heard of doing that like full team session all together and really having this be a discussion among the leadership team.
Yeah, I mean, so like most things in EOS, I mean, we teach, when we teach process, we teach a little bit about what the important processes are, and trying to help you discern, get your set context for that. Mike Payton obviously would do a fantastic job of that. Almost no one's done more sessions than Mike Payton. But then the point is to really help everybody get to the agreement about what the most important processes are. And then, like everything else, typically they're rocks to build out those processes to make that happen. So one of your rocks might be, hey, this quarter we want to really document the entire HR process. I really want to document the QC process on our product. Any of those are great rocks to get done, because it's on top of what we normally do. I'm doing it, but I'm also documenting it, and I'm coming up with a process. Usually done is when it's followed by all. You can see in the process documenter, there's a couple of things we know about processes: when it was created, who created it, and when it was started to be followed by all. And that's part of how we have measurables to determine whether or not it's actually happening or not. And that's how we determine whether it's actually really followed by all. So but the place to start is during one of your L10s, make it an IDS. Say, hey, let's pick our core processes, and we pick 5 to 15 things that are really core, and then start assigning those as building out that process, the 20/80 rule, as rocks.
Yeah. The hard thing with it is it's not like, going through a one-day session, you've got it all figured out, because it is one of those things where once you decide what the core processes are, there is going to be a whole thing for getting each of those really defined, because there's different teams involved. There's a lot of different things involved as far as like actually building them out that are really unique to your individual company.
Yeah.
So that's why the rock aspect is so nice, because then it's just, hey, this person's responsibility to go collaborate with whoever they need to collaborate with.
Because the language of these things matter. I mean, we're trying to get it down to haiku. You know, you could write that 400-page standard operating procedure manual. No one's ever going to read it. So the notion is to make it that pilot checklist version of what you do, and then have it reference other materials people could do to go learn as well. You still people have a way of learning what goes on and way of teaching what goes on, but just how we make sure it's happening the right best way every time. That's what it's really about.
Yeah. All right, best advice for printing processes. So I will say, before I get into printing them, I do think it's a great idea not to print them, because they are changing. You know, you're going to be evolving these quarter to quarter. If you print them out, then it just means that those versions are going to become outdated. Do you have the right version? You're kind of running into the same problems you might have with like a Word doc. So you can invite all of your people to 90 to view these for free. It's that observer role, and then they can come in. It's great because they can look at the accountability chart too and the process section. So I would really consider doing that instead of printing. I know printing is still a thing that people want to do. So I'll talk about that, but I do want to really encourage you to think about adding people as observers into your account so they have the
Yeah, I mean, definitely do that so people can go and look at it and collaborate in this process. But I think that the notion of the pilot checklist on the clipboard is still an important part for a lot of people. I've got clients in manufacturing and in construction, and they're not going to pull their device out to go figure this shit out. They want to have someplace where they can
Definitely
have a dirty pencil on it.
And so that when you get there, that this PDF button is essentially printing whatever is currently on page. So I just printed it out, and it's going to give me a list of all of my core processes here, just on like a quick little one pager. And then if I dive into HR, now it's going to give me HR and then all the steps that are related to the HR core process. So we don't have it quite built out to the spot yet where I can press PDF once and it gives me a whole little booklet associated with it. We definitely want to get there where you can have that sort of booklet just on demand printing out, and it gives you every single step. But for right now, just go into the individual section, and then you can see here, all right, we're in the HR core process. We've got hiring, onboarding, accountability chart, and it's got all the details built out that you have listed in the software. So very similar to accountability chart printing. Print what you're looking at, print a PDF. You do have a couple options here if you want to print it out on a multi-page view, which makes sure that everything is really legible. It's only going to give you like a section per page. So if I press print now, it's essentially going to give me my leadership team on one page and then all of the seats below on the following. Or you can get into the different options here where maybe I want a single page printout where it gives me the whole chart and it's really zoomed out. Or you can go into condensed, which means it's going to give me the person and the seat title, but no roles and responsibilities.
Oh, you have that already. Someone else is asking about that.
So that's an option. Just click on condensed view. It's still going to be subject to the shape of your chart, since everybody's shape is a little bit different. But the nice thing about these views is go to, FedEx or wherever you want to go and print this out really large. It's a PDF view, so they should be able to take the document. It's all high res. You can see if I scroll in here, it's all going to still be really legible. So yeah, feel free to take this anywhere and print it out. And then here's that multi-page view where it's a little bit more structured in terms of, hey, here's my seats. And then it's going to take each of these seats, sales and marketing, and show me the seats below that. So a little bit more detailed out, but maybe a little bit more legible and less like scrolling around on here. So those are a couple options as far as the PDF goes. So single and multi-page, and then the detailed and condensed view.
That's awesome.
Whoops. Issues. Previous webinars. Yes, so YouTube channel. Stephen, did you post this in the chat by chance? Awesome, thank you. So they're all listed there. And then I also have a playlist built out where you can go and just watch through all of them too. So as we re-record these, I'll keep adding to the playlist so you can listen to hours of me and Jim rambling on.
I'd like that. My mom might too, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Send it around. And public toggle, great. I just saw public toggle during the demo, can't find it on R90. So where is it located exactly? So the thing to remember is it's only visible on the leadership team because nobody else really needs it. Nobody else has that functionality where their issues are at risk of being viewed on the VTO. So only the leadership team really has that option to share their VTO with all teams. So you'll only see it when you're toggled onto the leadership team view looking at the long-term issue. So just click on an issue and you should see it to the right. And you should also see it on the create button next to the team.
Cool.
All right. Let's see. I think that's it.
Fantastic.
Well, if there's nothing else, we can let everybody go. Really appreciate you guys joining. I'm not sure if I announced this, but I think we're planning on doing like cascading 90 to all of your teams next month. Jim's got a great presentation planned and we'll showcase how the software can help with that, obviously. And then maybe next month we'll jump into process. Sounds like there's a lot of energy around that. So definitely want to tackle some of those topics as well. But feel free to send recommendations and really appreciate you guys joining.
Yeah, or additional questions. Yeah, places you're getting stuck. We'd love to help out any way we can.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thanks, Christine. Thanks, Stephen, for helping out. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.